Welcome to the Confessions Podcast. I'm Cindy Wagman.
And I'm Jess Campbell. We're two former in-house nonprofit pros turned coaches and consultants to purpose-driven organizations.
After years of building up our separate six-figure businesses from scratch, we've thrown a lot of spaghetti at the wall and have lived to see what sticks.
We're on a mission to help other nonprofit coaches and consultants looking to start or scale their own businesses past the six-figure mark by pulling back the curtain.
Whether you're still working inside a nonprofit and thinking of one day going out on your own, or you've been running your consulting business for years, you understand that working with nonprofits is just different. We're giving you access to the business leaders who serve nonprofits as their clients. You know, the people who truly get it.
No more gatekeeping, no more secrets. This podcast is going to give you an inside look at what running a successful nonprofit coaching and consulting business looks like. Basically, we're asking people how much money they make, how they get paid, and what has and hasn't worked in their businesses.
Listen in as these leaders share their insights, their numbers, and the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to building a nonprofit coaching or consulting business. We're going to empower you to make the power moves that give you the income and freedom you set out to create from day one.
You ready? Let's go.
Regina, what would you say is your secret to working with 5- and 6-figure clients?
Really leaning into value-based pricing is what has been my secret. And just right out the gate, like I'm charging based on my value, not based on the number of hours worked, not based on like any level of any particular deliverable, but really just getting into the value and the value of the prospects that I identify.
Okay, I love that. For everyone listening today, we are joined by the one, the only Regina Alhassan from the ResearchPRO. She's one of my favorite creators doing all the things for nonprofit clients. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
So for the folks who maybe don't know your work as in-depth as I do, can you break down a little bit how you get paid?
Absolutely. So ResearchPRO is my prospect development coaching and consulting firm, and I get paid a number of different ways. One way that works primarily one way, but there are 3 different opportunities. So I use a retainer model to work with my clients, and they can engage me either for a month, 3 months, or for 6 months. So that is how I get paid currently. I'm pivoting a little bit, but that has been my current model for the last several years.
Okay, my burning question is how does the Prospect Pro prospect clients?
hmm Oh, that's a really good question. And so I think that's a really good question for all of us in this field. Like in what I am learning and having to lean into more and more and get comfortable with is that it's really no different than the way that we prospect for potential donors. You find people that are in your universe, they have some affinity, they have some need, et cetera, some connection. And so applying that on the business side of things. Who's in my universe? Where are the fundraisers? Where are the nonprofit professionals? For me, I find a lot of those prospects in AFP, so the Association of Fundraising Professionals, both at the global level and in my local chapter, the Central Ohio chapter. I prospect there. And just again, it's building the relationships, connecting with people that, I can be authentic with, and I recognize what their needs are. And I realize that like I don't solve every nonprofit's prospect development problem. There are particular nonprofit leaders, nonprofit organizations, and structures and infrastructures that I serve. And so finding those individuals within local fundraising organizations. So AFP is one. I'm also a member of APRA, which is the prospect development version of AFP, or I should say AFP is the fundraisers version of APRA. But I'm involved with APRA. I serve as a faculty member for APRA Fundamentals. So remaining relevant, continuing to be a thought leader, an educator, etc., in my field, within my universe, in building meaningful relationships.
That's so good. And I feel like we're going to want to come back to this a little bit. I feel like Jess will have more questions, but I kind of want to take us back a step because
Mhm.
you said you have, oh, I have some more questions about what, like how you get paid, what you do. I'm going to give you two questions. You can choose which order to answer them in. The first is, what are the other two areas if it's not the retainer? And the second question is specifically around the retainer. Do you find that clients stop after 3 months or whatever their contract is? Or are these longer, do they end up being longer term clients, but that's sort of the bucket that you house them in? So you get to pick which order to answer.
Yeah. So I'll back up a little bit and say that that is a more current model that I've been using for the last not quite 12 months. Initially, I was doing just whatever anybody wanted, whatever came my way, retainers if I could get them, small projects. That was like year one, year two, and then quickly realized like, okay, small projects require much more time and energy and effort than retainers, but they don't pay as much. And then being transparent, I found myself with a couple of small projects, like they actually cost me money. And so then it's like, okay, not we won't do small projects anymore. Let's experiment with removing small projects and customizing proposals for individual organizations. So then I really leaned into the retainer model because I started off at retainers were 6 months or 12 months. And so leaning into that and realizing that I had one client that was like I call my legacy client. They were with me from the beginning. Started off as a small project, turned into a 6 month retainer, which turned into a 12-month retainer, which got renewed like three times. And so that was a unique, and so I can say this in retrospect now that I've had the experience. So that's where I'm talking from, like really from a retrospective view and realizing that, okay, I really like the retainers. They are a lot less energy, still same value, but a lot less energy, and generally easier to work with and manage for my infrastructure. But then people still come and we don't need that. We just need this one little thing. We don't need that. We still just need these little things. It's like, yes, I can do that, but I need to be able to do that in a way that works for me. And so that's why I've shifted into the 1 month, 3 month, or 6 month retainer. 12 month, it's hard to even say this out loud, but the 12-month retainer is currently not on the menu. And so if you were my
Love that.
client before 2023 and you know about that, and we've had that experience, and you come back and say, we want to do that, then that will be available. But for new clients, new prospects, people just come new to the Research Pro world, they're not even getting that option because I find that within that 6 months, we can go on, we can go beyond. We absolutely can go beyond. But for by and large, what most organizations are looking for, I can deliver in a 6 month term. And after that 6 month term, there's not too much newness that I'm bringing to the table. And it's just kind of, it just naturally, the relationship just sort of, okay, yeah, you got what you need and you have a great foundation. And now it is up to you to continue to use the names that I've provided, to continue to have your meetings, etc. And me being on retainer isn't going to advance that any further.
That is so interesting and thoughtful in terms of like, I feel like so many people want long term contracts, but you're really focused on the client value, which I love. Okay, so the other two products, tell us about how else you serve organizations. And
Mhm.
I really love your thoughtful journey in terms of, everyone we talk to has a legacy client, first of all, like hands
Yeah.
down, that is the number one theme I think we've seen, especially as people look to grow their one-to-many offerings or scale. And so it sounds like you have sort of those solid foundations of what your product is, and that's evolved over time. What is the evolution? What does it look like going forward?
So definitely moving into that one to many model. One, because I want to be able to scale, and two, because I'm grateful to be in the space to say I want better balance. Not just I want it, but I am intentionally building better balance into my business model. I can't work 24 hours a day, and I don't want to. I don't want to work 8 hours every workday, and so being honest with myself and understanding, how can I deliver the most value to the most people, which to me is the one to many model, and then also answering that call for those organizations that come to me and say, well, we just can't do a 5 or 6 figure retainer. We just don't have it. Our whole budget, our annual budget, is what you're asking for in your proposal. I get that. And I still love you and care about you because that's who I am, as a nonprofit professional. So now this year, I've launched an accelerator program, which is a 7-week coaching program. So that's one lower dollar option. And that has already launched for this year. And I'm excited about that. And just now, I'm getting ready to launch a new summer series, which is even more affordable, which is really getting into that one to many model. Like, here's a class, here's a prospect development class. I'm just going to teach you how to do it in this webinar. And I have maybe four, three different topics that I'm teaching on like each quarter, and they'll rotate out. So I'm experimenting with that. And that's the new model.
Okay. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love the breakdown. I want to go even further if you're okay with it. And I'd be curious to hear how you thought about pricing. You
Hmm.
talked a little bit at the top about really doing value-based pricing, not pricing things based on deliverables, which I love. And so as you think about your retainer clients, but then the accelerator, but then even the lower ticket offer, like how do you price
Hmm.
things? And what was your thought process to get to those numbers?
Yeah. So again, all about value and recognizing that, okay, in prospect development across the industry and having been a member of APRA, an active member, chapter leader, and all of that, really using some anecdotal evidence, like I know that we would all agree, because we took a poll at a conference one year, like we would all agree that in general, our work identifies at least 75% of all new and increased giving year over year. And so
It's amazing.
yes, exactly. That's amazing. And so that's the impact of prospect development. And at that particular conference, we were trying to, talking about our value in comparison to executive leadership and calling out the fact that who else touches donors across the organization at that level outside of prospect development. And so understanding that number and that statistic, and then also taking a look at donor attrition rates and donor retention, and knowing that year over year, you have to generate almost 50%. You need that constant pool of new prospects coming in. And so initially, it was hard for me to like really, I was grappled with that. And I'm not going to say that I have like perfected the formula, but using that 75% in comparison to an organization's campaign goal, or like a campaign goal, an annual goal, etc. I'm wrapping up a retainer with an organization. Their annual goal is $200 million. Okay, well, the value of prospect development is identifying 75% of that $200 million. And I recognize that organizations can't afford, like, that's a lot of money. Um, but that's how I base my pricing. So I don't do the cold math and okay, because it's easier to do like $1 million. It's easier to do the math. So let's say it's $1 million campaign. I know that I'm going to come in, and you're asking me, we need names. We're building from scratch. We only have like 50 don't, top major giving prospects, but we have a $1 million campaign or $50 million, $10 million, et cetera. So using $1 million for the math, and I know that I'm going to identify at least 75% of new and increased gifts. 75% of a million is $750,000. That's my value. That's the value of the solution that I deliver. I recognize as a nonprofit, it's hard for them to say, yes, here's $750,000. So then I scale back from there. So I kind of base it on like 1 to 2%, anywhere between like 1 to 4% of that, like $750,000.
That's fantastic. I love how you broke that down. And it sounds like really it depends on the organization and their goals and where they're at in terms of what you're charging for those
Mhm.
retainers. That they can be, sounds like a little bit or highly varied.
They're standard. So and I could be transparent. Up until the end of 2022, the 6 month retainer started at 75,000, and the 12 month retainer started at 150. And so
Awesome.
that's just pretty much what it was. I
Yeah.
say starting at, because then you get some
Hmm.
flexibility from consultant to consultant. But generally, I wasn't changing the price, to
Yeah.
be quite honest.
If you find a price that works, sometimes that's just your price and that's okay too. Okay. Talk to us about the pricing of the accelerator and the
Mhm.
summer program that you have in terms of how you thought about making something that is scalable and accessible and I don't love the word affordable because I think all of
Yeah,
even the high ticket is affordable to the right organizations. It's
yeah.
still a bargain, right? So, but yeah, how did you think about what do they cost, and how did you come up with those numbers?
Yeah, so the accelerator is like where I got a little bit more refined. Like I've been playing around with this sort of odd formula in my head for a while. So it's just a 2.5% investment on the program promise. So the program promise for the accelerator is very, very clear. Every organization that is enrolled in the prospect development accelerator will identify at minimum $1 million in qualified prospects. And
That's
so then
amazing. I'm like, can I
abs-
send some clients your way?
absolutely. And so the accelerator is $25,000 for a 7 week program per organization. So your entire team of fundraisers could participate. And that represents a 2.5% investment on the return, the program promise return.
Love it.
Yes. And I have proof, beyond just my 23 years of experience. But one of the clients that went through the accelerator, by week 4, they had secured $15,000. And so had already received a 60% return on their investment. And we hadn't even completed the program. And so leaning into I've gotten more comfortable with this over the years, but leaning into these are the numbers, this is my value, and this is what we're going to talk about.
So, so, so good. And then the summer, the teaching one, the one that's a little bit more like, here's the information you need to know.
Yes, so I'm going big. I'm really this is all new. And I am intentionally going big and pricing those at 197. Yes, it's an experiment. I'm just curious to see what happens. They're 197 each, and I'll have at least 3. But what I find is that organizations come to me and they expect to spend something, but they can't necessarily spend $75,000 or even like the monthly amount now. They just don't have that. But yet they recognize there is value, and they recognize the importance of the information, so they're willing to pay something. But up until now, I have not had anything for them. It's just kind of like, well, follow me.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, like, how are you selling these programs. I mean, you talked a little bit about your own prospecting and where you're finding specifically maybe more of those retainer level clients, but for like the accelerator or the summer program, more one to many, is it social selling? Is it through referral partnerships? Is it through your email list? Like, where are you doing this selling?
Social and content marketing and email marketing. I would like to get to a place where I am able to like do affiliate, some sort of affiliate program. I'm just not there in this very moment. And so one thing that I've been doing all of 23 is spending time on my infrastructure so that I can scale, so that I have my own CRM now, and so all of these sort of background things that will allow me to have workflow automation, allow me to run events, have a shop, all of that I didn't have before a couple of months ago. I've been really been intentional about building that out. So I'm just now at the cusp of trying all of these things, and we'll see what works. I will say for the accelerator, I did email, referral, I did paid ads. Um, I did paid ads with AFP Global, and I feel like there was one other place, and now I can't remember. It's terrible. Um, and I did like partnership ads, like, can you share this information? Um, and by far, with the accelerator, the people that reached out and said they were interested or raised their hand in some way was all as a result of my email marketing. So,
Damn.
so I'm like, I
I
spent all
love
that
that.
money, but
Okay, Regina, it's time to play another round of our rapid fire questions. You game?
I'm game.
Okay, cool. What is your morning routine?
Mm, get up, get my 8-year-old ready for school and or camp and get her out the door, and then get back home. I usually drink a full glass of water and sit on the porch for at least 30 to 45 minutes, and have some conversation with the sun, the birds, my flowers, whatever's going on outside.
I love that. You said on our show that you prefer to not work even 8 hours a day during the work days. So, what are some of your summer plans?
Oh, well, this year, like I mentioned, we are doing like our theme is Playcation 2023. And I'm being really intentional about weekend trips throughout the state. We went out of state this past summer, and the calendars aren't lining up for the whole family to go this summer. So we're doing some in state weekend trips. I have a conference that I'm going to, and I'm turning it into a mom vacation as
Love
well.
it.
It's a week long. So I'm like, a week long conference? Okay,
What conference? What conference?
This is actually APRA PD, APRA Prospect Development Conference. So I'll be there from like Sunday through Thursday. And
Incredible.
I think I'm just going to book a really nice Airbnb and enjoy myself.
Okay, well, this kind of leans into my final question, which
Yeah.
is what is your next professional development investment?
Yeah. So that's a good one. Mm.
There any coach or any program you've been kind of eyeing or just book you want to read or just anything?
Yeah. This year, I am intentionally not enrolling in any programs because I am easily distracted. And I got things to focus on. I got things to launch and sell. I am reading a book right now called E Squared, 9 experiments to prove that your thoughts, like, create the world around you. So like
Oh,
these
I love
energy
that.
experiments. And so I'm reading a lot right now. And I'm reading another book called Heal Your Life. So I'm reading.
Love it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. Thank you for playing.
Thank you.
Okay, I have so many questions, but first let's talk a little bit about a high ticket one to many product. I think a lot of the conversations that we have and a lot of people are sort of like at a race to the bottom. We think one to many allows us to reduce our pricing. and reach more organizations, which you talked a little bit about for your summer program, but 197 is still not like chump change, you know? And a $25,000 group program is certainly a premium price, and even working one-on-one with you. So tell us a little bit about how you like, was it ever a challenge for you? It's, so many people we hear from in our sector in particular have a really hard time putting those premium prices out there. They worry about what it says about them. They worry about the stories other people might think of them. And just, yeah, there seems to be so much negative association with high prices, which we obviously don't agree with. And so I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey in beyond the value-based calculations, which are great. Like, it's still a big number to put out there, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're 100% confident with it. So
Yes.
what's that been like for you?
Yeah. So it's definitely been a journey. And I was not there when I first started. I remember when I first started, I was selling research profiles like for $65. And now I'm ashamed to say that. But it was like, I don't know. I was just starting, like
I mean,
month
if you didn't
one,
start like that, like, did you even
right.
start? I mean, come
Right.
on, we've all been there.
And so you realize, like, oh no, people will buy this. And then you realize, oh, they'll renew. Oh, they like, so you kind of go through this process, this mental process. Part of it also was me unlearning the value that was placed on me as an employee. And so you kind of have to separate all that. And it's just a journey and it takes time. And there's no way to like rush through that. But what I've also come to realize, and again, it's a journey and following different coaches, um, that the way the human brain works, it doesn't value anything cheap. And so that is something that I just have to remind myself of. Like, if I come cheap, then they won't buy into it. And that's what I'm experimenting with right now. If I say it's free, and I'm doing something free, I'm testing something free this summer, a very intentional experiment. But I recognize if I say, come to my $20 prospect development class, I'm going to teach you how to find donors. My receipts are in the billions, and I'm going to show you how to do it for $20. You don't take me serious.
Mm,
That's the way the
totally.
human brain works. It's incredibly counterintuitive for us as human beings. Like, it's like, no, certainly that's not how we work, but it is how we work. Like, research proves that. Um, so forcing myself to lean into that. And again, it's been an incredible journey. And also realizing that it's the value-based pricing allows me to take my personal worth out of the equation. It's not my personal worth. There's no number for my personal worth. Like, I'm invaluable, as we all are. Like, ask my 8-year-old how much I'm worth. There's no number, you know. So leaning into that has definitely been a mental shift.
It's especially for us coming from the nonprofit sector. I don't think we've interviewed one person on the show who hasn't had to do some like deep work on that topic. Cindy, you want to find out about these ads? I know you're curious as a ad runner yourself.
Yeah, I would love to. So I think so often in the online marketing space, like when people talk about ads, most people, especially scaling businesses, they think social ads, right? Facebook, Instagram. But it sounds like you've done more of a really targeted, like get in front of the right audience piece. Have you, like, I'd love to hear how you measured that, what your acquisition, like I'm working right now on some Facebook ads. I've done other paid ads with, like, I'm in Canada, so Charity Village, Imagine Canada type places. So I would love to know what you've learned from that. If you're going to keep playing, I also love that you play because I like doing that too. Like even your experiment with the free content. So tell me a little bit about how you're playing with ads and what you've learned so far.
Yeah, so I did the paid ads with AFP Global and with Google. So I did Google ads. And to be quite honest, I wasn't happy with the return. No one that I reached, no one that, none of the prospective clients for that particular prospect or that particular product said they found me through Google or through AFP. The numbers, like for the Google ads, you can see the analytics. And then I just was like, okay, it was pretty dismal. I felt like, and then you pay per click. So that is what I did, pay per click. And so then it's like, these people aren't even doing anything. And so for me, it was an experiment. And I'm grateful to have been in the space where like, hey, I have an ad budget, I have a marketing budget. So that's the other thing that sort of drives my marketing is the budget. And up until like last year, I didn't feel like, oh, I have money I can just spend just to see if I get some engagement. That felt incredibly risky for me. And so I had to be targeted because I just didn't have a lot of money to waste. So that's how I got into the AFP Global. Like, that's my audience, like the
Did
fundraisers.
yeah. Did you track specific conversions from that? Like, did you have a separate landing page? Do you know what your acquisition costs were, even if they didn't buy?
No,
Or like
I
your lead
don't.
cost? No, okay, yeah.
I don't.
Okay.
And so that's part of the experimentation for me. Like, okay, I'm just going to do it and we'll see. This is as strategic as I can get in this moment and let's see
Yeah.
what the results are. But to be honest, I just didn't get a lot of traffic. I
Yeah.
didn't get more than like 100 visits to that particular page.
Mm, mm.
So I can't say that, oh, it was all just so overwhelming. Um, and
Yeah, not.
Exactly. So I don't know that that's not high on my list,
Mm,
to try
yeah.
again. Yeah.
That's okay. Like
Yeah.
it's expensive. Do you mind sharing the what you paid in this
Mhm.
experiment? Because I also think it's important for us to look at like when we do play, there's a cost to it, right? So
Exactly.
what did your total ad spend look like?
Yeah, so the AFP ad, I think I had like 2 or 3 weeks in the AFP weekly email, and then I had like top ad on a couple of Friday emails through AFP Global. I spent like 2,400 and some change, so say like $2,500, and I justified that like, well, if I had one person, I knew I had one organization secured for the accelerator, so that was like 10%. I'm like, okay, one, I already have the liquid assets to pay for it, but then also I can justify it because this one client is going to cover the cost of this ad investment. So it was 10%. So that felt reasonable to me. And money is top of mind. So I like things to pay for themselves. And then for the Google ad, again, money top of mind. I had an offer from Google Ads, like you spend 500 and you get 500 free, So I did that, and I spent $500, 500 of my own, and used 500 of Google's dollars. And once I got to like that 900 and some odd dollars, I was like, that's enough.
Totally. Yeah. I'm with Cindy. I love that you are experimenting and playing around and figuring out what works. Since it sounds like you've done some analysis, where are you finding that most of your clients are coming from any one of your
Mhm.
programs?
Yeah, email, word of mouth referral.
Boom, boom, boom. I know
Yeah,
the classics.
yeah.
Uh, okay, I have to ask, and this is maybe relative to the folks we've interviewed on this show, but you seem very evolved and advanced. Like you seem to be someone that has really like done a lot of work on your own professional development. Even the fact that like you're using words like affiliates and this is definitely something for our more advanced, been around their business for a few years type of consultants. And I'm just super curious, like where and who are you learning from?
hmm So I'm enjoying the business and I'm having a good time with it. And I want it to be, I'm a Virgo, so I think that has something to do with it. Like I just want to learn about it and let's try this and let's try this. And also being really authentic with Like, what exactly do I want this to do for me? It seems to be working. Okay, yay. Well, now what? How do we make it work for me? I'll just say who I follow online. I follow a coach on Instagram. Her name is Jericia Hawk. She's amazing. There's another one, Audria Simmons, and I love her, although she's like not in the nonprofit space. She's just an amazing coach. I took several marketing classes from a local organization called the Ohio Marketing Association, which serves nonprofits and small business owners. I took a few of his classes. It's a good colleague. His name is Mark Cardwell. I think I'm like his like a pet project. I took the classes so many times till I could just get it. Um, I this past year I completed a business development program called the Hire One Accelerator through a local organization called WCEO. And it's an organization that is centered on advancing Black women CEOs. And so just been really intentional about this is hard. I don't know how to do this, or at least I feel like I don't know how to do this and I need help. And, so I'm a spiritual person. So, believing in having faith that whenever I needed something, I needed some information, it came, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, as it were.
Ooh, I love that. Oh my goodness. I love that you love learning, because I think it really shows in the growth of your business and the evolution. I'm so excited to continue to watch where it goes. One of our standard questions on the podcast is for a confession. So, what is one thing about your business or about running your business that maybe you don't want to share with the world, but you'll share with us here?
One, I used to charge $65 for research reports.
Fair enough. I mean, we've all been there, right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But I say more seriously, I think maybe a bit more transparent, is that I reached a point where I didn't want to do this anymore. Like it was overwhelming. It was almost, dare I say, too much success, too much work. Hiring other people proved to be even more work. And just kind of hit a wall like, oh, is this worth it? And that was a hard space to be in.
Mm. I appreciate that vulnerability and that just truth.
Mhm.
That's just very true. And I'm so glad you stuck it through because you are doing amazing work. You're such an inspiration. Regina, for anyone who would love to follow you, love to be in touch, love to connect, where can the people find you?
Absolutely. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Linktree at The Research Pro. And then you can always find me on my website, theresearchpro.com.
Love it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you again for listening to the Confessions podcast for nonprofit coaches and consultants. If you enjoyed today's episode, which I sure hope you did, you can show your support in one of three ways.
Number one, post a screenshot of this episode to your Instagram stories or LinkedIn profile and tag Cindy and I so we can repost you.
Number two, share this podcast with a fellow nonprofit coach or consultant.
And number three, leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts so we can continue to grow and reach new listeners.
And of course, make sure you subscribe so you can get the latest and greatest interviews as they drop every Thursday.
And to our fellow nonprofit coaching and consulting friends, remember, we're an open book and here to answer your burning biz questions.
See you next time.